Hi, I made this video to help with this assignment in particular. Especially learning how to cite is strange for some people. If you already know how to do it, maybe you covered this in your English classes in high school or whatever, then you probably already get this. But if citations and sources are new to you and using them and having it be important is new to you, well, watch this video, please. I'm going to walk you through this assignment, but this assignment is key for really the rest of this course. So citations, what are they? Why are they important? Anytime you are sharing information that you didn't come up with, you need to tell your readers where you got it. And that's really basically it. Anytime you share information that you obviously didn't come up with and don't cite it, that's plagiarism, right? Anytime you share information that you didn't come up with, unless it's common knowledge, that's the trick. So, but that balance is strange. Is it common knowledge or not? Some things that are common knowledge to one person aren't to another. That can be weird. So, and whenever you're in doubt, add a citation. You should have many, many citations in your essays. Sometimes students, we'll get to the end of this course and their final essay will just have like one citation per reference and they'll wonder why they fail. I'm making this video now to catch you now. We're not even halfway through the quarter yet, and I need you to understand first, the citations are super important. And then second, how to use them, right? So let's walk through this assignment. This assignment is we've already talked about APA formatting, but this is when we really talk about these citations and sources. So there's some reading here for you if you want to learn more about these, if reading is what makes sense to you. But I'm making this video to kind of walk you through this idea just in case you're a visual learner, right? So I'm going to add that to this list. So the assignment says, for each of these references, write a citation that you could use. So these words are important to understand. First off, definition, reference. A reference is it's a line like this. It looks just like this in green. It's how you tell the reader or the audience where the thing came from. So it references where the info came from. It always shows up at the end of your essay. There'll be a references section. Sometimes you might have heard those called a works cited or works consulted. It depends on what you're using. For APA format, it's references. And so you have the end of your essay, you'll have a section titled references, and you'll have a list of things like this, just like this one, for each reference you used for writing your essay. The citation, that is in the actual essay itself and tells the reader to look at the back. That's the link to the reference. So in your writing, you don't want to be like, for example, if you said something, used a quote from this person, Addy, from their theory of mind function, this whole thing. You don't want to write all this out when you share their quote or when you share information that you got from them. Instead, you just want to use a little citation, just like this. How to use these is explained up here. But in case, so read about it. If this is confusing, try reading about it. But I'm going to walk you through what these look like. So here's an example essay. This one is an example essay you might have seen before. I use it a lot in this class. It's just a student's essay. They wrote about tea being the healthiest caffeinated drink there is. And it's in APA format. So I use this to show APA format, but also to show how citations and references work. So this isn't the type of essay you'll be writing. You're not going to be writing about tea, but you will be writing an essay that looks structurally just like this. So as I scroll down, this is the cover page. This is all APA formatting. The cover page should look exactly like this. And then we come to the actual essay itself. And Carol writes, according to the Tea Association of the USA, tea is the most widely consumed beverage in the world next to water. See this little thing here? That is a citation, right? That tells me, oh, go look at the back of the essay and I can see this reference. Notice it only has a date. Well, that's because I already said, or Carol already said this part. So you already know the source is the Tea Association of the USA, so the citation only needs the date. So if you scroll down, let's look at the back and see if this is back here. Bong! It's there. Tea Association 2019. Here's the actual reference. So if I ever wanted to look up more information about what Carol is talking about, I can come back to the back of the essay, find the source, go look at it. You should know that as your professor, look at your sources and check them. So if you make sure your sources are real, that's a terrible way to lose points. Is either having sources that you made a mistake in, so that maybe the link doesn't work, or if they're made up, that's the absolute worst because then the whole essay gets tanked. So that's what a reference is. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's look at some more. So you come down here, and in this paragraph, she talks about tea and its effects on your metabolism. And then there's a quote, right? Lower the rate of absorption of fats, sugars, thus reducing calorie, blah, 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 quote, ends with a citation. Anytime you have a quote, you need a citation. So if you paraphrase or you quote, you need to cite it. If you're using information from it, you need to cite it. So this citation, they didn't say in the text who the author was, so they put it in the citation. That's normally how they look. They usually have author's last name and then the date. This says et al. Because this source has many authors. It's not just one. If we look down at the bottom, Rothenberg. Where are you? Rothenberg. Yeah, there's Rothenberg, Zhao, and Zhang. All three are involved. So when there are more than one person who wrote the thing, you just say the first person's name and then et al., which means and the rest. So then you know. The same idea though. It's there so you can come down here and look and see how to find that information, right? How to find the source. And that's references and citations. Notice that right after this, they have another quote and another citation from a totally different source. That's good. That looks good. You want to have lots of sources and citations in your work. That's what's dangerous. If I see a whole paragraph with no citation, then it better be just you writing from your own ideas. That's how that works, right? In a lot of essays in this class, that's what you do. In like our final essay, you're going to be sharing a lot of research, but also a big part of it is your reaction to that research. In the reaction part, I don't look for citations unless you do cite somebody. Maybe you quote somebody or something, then you want to cite them. But in the rest of the sections, and anytime you're talking about stuff that you don't think I or maybe random people on the street would know, cite it. Always cite it, especially if it's something you found from anywhere. Cite it. Um, Also, these citations add words to your length of your essay, right? So add citations. It also helps your essay get longer. Anyway, hopefully this makes sense. See, like, looking through here, here's another citation. Here's another citation. There's two in that paragraph. Boop, boop. And then down here, another citation at the very end. That makes sense, right? So this doesn't have a quote in it, but this paragraph has lots of paraphrased information, lots of info in here that she got from a source, from this source. So she cites it. Another et al. One, because it's another list of people. And then the conclusion. And she put a citation in the conclusion because she still presented some information. Ceramic teapots over 11,000 years old have been found in Asia and the Middle East. If I saw that without a citation, I say, where did you hear that? Why aren't you telling me where you heard that? And you lose points, right? So think of it as a game and that you need to make sure that any info you share, you tell us where you got it. So that's what citations look like. And references look like this. Citations, references. References go at the end, and they should all have what's called a hanging indent. And here's a little secret. I mentioned this in another piece, but when you have these already have hanging indents. If I added my own little weird reference that I made up, let's say cave, 2026. There should be a period after my name. That's how this works. And then 2026. Maybe you're referencing my part of what? The dictionary. Yeah, whatever. And then HTTPS. This isn't long enough to show you what I'm trying to show you. So I'm going to give it a nice long, I'm going to copy and paste that. Boop. So it already gave it the hanging indent. Arr! Well, what I was going to show you is if you hit Control T, that gives it a hanging indent. Now I'm giving it a really deep one, but that's Control T. If you're on a Mac, you'd use the Apple button or Command and T. Does the same thing. So it gives you a quick, it makes it easier. The other way to do it is to go all the way up here. If you're in Word, hit this button. I don't know, you can even see it's really small in the video, but up here under paragraph, you have a button that is line and paragraph spacing. You hit that, and then down here under spacing options, you can, under indentation, give it a hanging indentation right here. But that's pretty complicated, isn't it? So I recommend Control T. That's just an easier way to do it. So anyway, back to the assignment. Hopefully that makes sense as far as what a reference is and what a citation is, right? So now the assignment is I want you to practice with this. So first, let me see these. Yeah, part two is adding references. Part one is adding citations. So here's a reference. And what I want you to do is cite as if you quoted from page 33. So let's do this first one together. Since you're the one watching this video, I'll give you the first one for free. So Moya, PM from 2001, Chicana Feminism and Postmodern Theory. And then here's the journal it came from. And then here is more information like the page numbers and all of that. So I say here, notice I say cite as if you quoted from page 33. So citations, let's go back to this little, my English example. Where are we at? Boop, right here. So citations, I'm scrolling up. Hopefully it's not making you sick. Like most citations will just have the last name and then the date, right? However, if it's a quote, you need to put the page number in. If there isn't a page number, then you can leave it out. Like if you're using a website or something like that, or a video you're citing. But if it has pages, if the thing has pages, then you need to add the page number here. If it's a quote, this isn't a quote, so I wouldn't expect a page number. But up here, this is a quote. And there is no page number. Oh no. So that's a mistake, right? Even though I'm using this as an example, the student didn't get it all correct because that's really hard to do. English 101 is hard. That's why you're here, learning all about this. So hopefully that makes sense. So look at the assignment. Moya PM. So how would we cite this? How would we cite this? Well, the only information we need is the author's last name, only the last name. Leave out these initials. That's only in the reference, right? For the citation, it's just last name, year, and page number. So that's all you need. So it would look like, let me get a blank one of these. It would look like, what was it, Moya? Okay, I've already forgotten who this was. Let's go back and look. Moya, yeah, Moya. So a citation, first off, it's in parentheses. Boop. Let me make this bigger just so that this is like taking up all the screen so you can see it. There's parentheses, Moya, comma, and then the year, which was 2001, comma, and then the page, you go P dot, and then we go look at the page. What was the page again? It was 33. Awesome. So let's go back here, page 33, and that's it. That's a citation. That's a correct citation for this one. So, what would the next one be? Well, I can't do all the homework for you, but looking at this, the National Institute of Health, 2006, blah, blah, blah. Notice that there isn't an author. There's no last name. It's just National Institute of Health. What do you do in these situations? Well, I'm going to tell you what to do. You can either write the whole title as the name or just a couple of words from the front. I recommend just a couple words from the front. Otherwise, it gets really big. The whole point of citation is for it to be small. So for this one, instead of writing National Institute of Health, I might just write National Institute or even just national if there's nothing else in your references that looks like that. The whole point is so that people can find it, right? So it could look like, I guess I'm giving you the second one too. It could look like national. I don't know, just the word national seems a little weird. So I'm going to, this is up to you, by the way. I'm going to go ahead and look at, what was it, National Institute? Yeah, National Institute of Health. So I'm just going to go National Institute, comma, what was the year? 2006. And then do you see, there's not even a page number on here, and we're not citing it as if we quoted. So we don't even need a page number. We just need the date. So let me go back to here, 2006. Boom. That's another citation. The important other piece to know, like we're practicing just writing citations and writing references, is how to put these into a sentence, right? So I'm going to talk about that right now for just a second. Say this quote here from Moya. I'm just going to assume what the quote was. Who knows? It was about, I was going to make something up. So what if it was ninjas are not the real enemy. It turns out it was cholesterol. Yeah, it's a bizarre quote, but it's what I just came up with. So there's the quote that I'm using in what I'm saying. So a couple of ways I could put this citation in. I could just copy, just hit Control C. I just put it at the end, and that works. However, that needs to be, if I put it like this at the end, that's a mistake because technically this well, actually, no, this is correct. Because I put a quote. This is correct. If this was a period at the end instead of an exclamation point, then things get more complicated, right? If in a situation of a question mark or an exclamation point right here, it looks just like this. But normally you'd have a period at the end. That period needs to go at the end of the citation, right? So technically, if you had an exclamation point or a question mark or an interrobang, that's what that's called. If you had all of that here, you'd still need a period at the end because that period tells the reader that that's the end of this whole sentence. And the citation is technically part of that sentence. If you don't have a period at the end, then the citation's just sort of floating out there, and who knows what it goes to. Most people would assume it goes to the sentence before, but you never know for sure. So a period after it. If there is a period at the end of this quote, then you just leave that period off. You don't have a period here and a period there. I know that's a little tricky, but learning APA formatting and citing is tricky. That's why it's an entire course, right? Not a pamphlet. So that's how you would put the citation into the sentence. You could also, if it's not a quote, like let's look at this National Institute one. Maybe the information was as it turns out, um, what does the National Institute have to say? As it turns out, Godzilla um, was indestructible. Boom. Hey, spelled that word terribly. Boom. So that's the information I'm using right from the National Institute of Godzilla or Health or whatever this is. So say if that's the information I'm sharing. It's not a quote, so I don't have a page number, but I put the citation in very similarly. So I'm doing Control C to copy it. It goes here at the end, just before the period, just like with a quote, just like that. Oop, the period moved there. That's how it would look, right? In an actual, if you were citing it. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but you can get fancy and you could do something like, as it turns out, according to the National Institute, and now I need more info. I can't just say the National Institute because that's not their title. Their title is bigger. So let's go look at what was it? The National Institute of Health. So go back here. Here we go. According to the National Institute of Health, Godzilla was indestructible. And now I can take that part out of my citation because it's in the sentence. So now it says, as it turns out, according to the National Institute of Health, Godzilla was indestructible. 2006, right? So hopefully that makes sense. That's how you put citations into your work, and that's what citations are. So the other part of the homework, part B down here, part two, is writing a reference for each of these sources. So it's going the other way around, right? So here's the reference book, Writing with Precision, How to Write So That You Cannot Possibly Misunderstood by Jefferson. So this isn't a reference, this is just a mess, right? So this is like the information. It's not a citation you're making a reference from. Sorry, I misspoke. It's more, here's the information, make a reference out of it. So here's the information. How would you make that into a reference? Well, definitely, I would start by coming up here and making sure that I opened this, the Reference APA Style Guide. I'm going to open this up into another page. So the APA Style Guide is these are the people who are in charge of all the APA everything. And if you come to their website, you can look at things like, I'm going to make this bigger. You scroll down here and you have all these different things, right? So these are the guys who are the experts on APA. And what you want to look at are reference examples, I suppose. Reference examples. So different types of things need different types of references, right? So you can read through here and learn about it. That's part of this assignment is learning how to do all this. But if you scroll down, you're probably mostly using textual works. That's like written stuff. So come down here and find the thing you're looking for. So this assignment is this first one. Boop, 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 is a book. Okay, we know that right away. Good. So it's a book. Book, 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 right? Books. So we hit that. And this will walk us through exactly how to do it, right? It gives you an example. So what you're going to need is the author's last name, their initials, the year it was published with periods, right? Then the title of the thing, and then the publisher of the thing. That's really what you need. And then the website of the thing, if there's a website. This doesn't have a website, so you would put, I'll walk you through this one. So it's Writing with Precision, How to Write so You Cannot Possibly Misunderstood by Jefferson D. Bates. So we know the name, it's Jefferson D. Bates. Well, for our reference, we just want to use the last name and first initial. So it's Bates J. So I'm going to come down here. It would look like this. Scroll here. Bates, comma, J, period, right? And then we want the year. So the year, let me scroll that so you can see that. Is that big enough? I don't really know how big this is for you on this video. But anyway, Bates, comma, J, and now let's go back over here to see the year. So beige 2000. So now he's put that right here. Parentheses 2000. Parentheses period. There's a period after each thing to tell you where you're at. It's a little weird, but that's the system. And then you come back over here and we look at the publisher. We'll look at the title and the publisher. So where are we at? So the title is Writing with Precision, How to Write So You Kind of Possibly Misunderstood. I'm going to go ahead and Control C to copy that. And then oh, and then we should look up here. So, examples, right? Of a whole authored book. So it shows you, you put the author, and then notice the title here is in italics. So if it is the title of a book, that's what you should do. So, and this is all explained down here, right? So you can read about it and make sure that you're doing it right. But yeah, so, because there's so many different ways that this could be different for you. So let's put the title here in our work. Boop, period. And then we need the publisher. Publisher Penguin Books, New York. So then Control C, copy that. Come back to here. Control C, copy that. Now, also the title here should be in italics. So hit it's up here. That's the leaning over I button. And now, what's the last thing we need to do to make this complete? Give it a hanging indent. So Control T, and now it's done. So, and it's perfect. That's what you're going to have at the end of your essays for everything you used in your essay. So, looking back at the assignment, you've got four more of those to do. There's an article in a magazine. So come back over here and look for magazines, right? We're in books right here. What else is there? Well, you can go back and look for magazines right here, magazine. So look through those, find what you need, and yeah. Oh, and I tell you that bonus secret move for Control T here. So there you go. Hopefully this makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions about any of it. But this is how to make citations and references, and you're gonna need to know this for the rest of this class. There's big assignments coming. You have your final essay, which needs all this correct, and you also have an annotated bibliography, which is going to be making references a bunch. And that's due in a few weeks. So let me know if you have any questions. Here we go.